I'm not trying to convince you one way or the other whether we should. Well, I'm hoping you come to it yourself, okay? But let's just a couple things I want to point out with the building from this side. Those that may not know, the top area there was open deck. Okay, I don't know if anybody remembers that. That was all open deck many years ago. You remember that? And then what happened? We need to move the freezers, the walk-ins, and they ended up being put in that area, and that was boxed in. Okay, so that actual front area deck area is holding the load for the walk-in freezer. But I want to point some things out. You notice the 6x6. I want you to notice at the top the metal, where they slide into the metal sleeve. Okay. What happens, you notice this one looks different than the three there. This all chips away. Okay. And you can see down in the bottom here where the piling's rotting away inside. And you're welcome to come up and take it. Outside solid here, but you can see the inside where it's rotting. These are part of the beams, the structural integrity of the building. The bracing and what's just starting to fall apart around it. And you can see it all the way around the building. Okay. Over the years, the main building part has settled slightly lower than this part. So when the water runs here, it all runs back, okay, to the sill around the building. And when you look at this, you can clearly see the water going that way. And when we get up to the second floor, there's some spots I can show you where you can see the discoloration from the water. That's where, when we talk about an invasive engineering report, we actually cut holes in the decking and part of the walls and lift them so they could look to see what the sill plate, what the wrap around the building looked like, and that's where we found some significant damage. It actually shifted about 2 inches to one side. But see where it's damp there, and where that one's now back up tight.
Yeah.
What has happened, this was hanging, the whole thing had shifted because it had rotted out. We had to jack it up and put another support in. Again, these are all temporary fixes. We're trying to stay ahead of it, but this is where we're talking long-term damage. These are the types of things you can look at when you're walking around the building, where you can see the water and just years and years, 40 years of water just soaking into the wood is starting, it's having its impact. So, in lieu of replacing, what they did was put the strapping, and you can see it around all the beams. This strap was put in to tie it all back together. But again, it's where they were notched in, the water gets in there, it's rotting the wood. You see the discoloration? Okay? What's happening, as I told you, this part's lower than the front. The water over the years has been sliding back this way and setting along the sill. What we did with the last engineering report, we actually pulled up strips of this so they could see what was up against the building, and we started to pull some of this out. There's a lot of rot in the sill plate here. Okay, and again, that's where the water, the dampness, has just eroded over the years. The new building, okay, is larger. Part of the size difference is we created interior storage. These are some of the tables we use for the banquet. We don't have storage in the building. We've had to create some outside storage. So I just want to point this out to you. The other thing I want to point out, and it's going to be a little hard to see until you come to this corner of the building, to include the beam with the blue tape on it, was rotted out and starting to fail on us last year. We had to do an emergency work order. We brought a contractor in to fix that corner of the building because there was so much rot in the beam. And please understand, that corner is holding up that corner of the entire building. When we get underneath, on the first floor, we're going to show you some of the damage that continued to follow all the way through the building. But that all had to be replaced because of the damage that was occurring. Directly to the right is where the station for the busboy, bus girls, that's where everything happens for everything out here. You'll notice that this is part of the inefficient design. More importantly, what I want to show you when we walk through, and I want everyone to be careful, when they walk through this, I want you to pay close attention here. This is just over the years, and this is part of what's rotting. That's part of what's rotting, okay, as we go through the underpinnings of the building, just moisture and from a number of buildings over the years. With that being replaced, you can see we still have a water issue. okay, coming through, and this is from the rain and that type of stuff. This is what's happening throughout the building. So when we're talking about having a 20% contingency, we're concerned once we start to open up and see what we have. This is what was cut in. This is the type of thing we're finding all over it. It's a 40-year-old building.
Rained on.
Yeah, sorry about that. With the water. And this is what we're finding every time we start to cut and look a little deeper. Imagine this is towards the outer wall, because right there's the outside of the building. The water's running this way along that sill plate and setting there. Coming down, rotting out. Again, it's a wooden building, and where the building's settled, 40 years. These are the things we're finding the deeper we go into it. This isn't meant to scare you. I'm just, again, I'm not trying to sell you, I'm trying to show you factually what we're dealing with. You can't make that up. Remember to watch your step when you come down here, please. This is the front side of the downstairs kitchen. One, I want you to notice the size of the kitchen. Okay. The other thing, this kitchen is the one that serves everything downstairs and outside. The thing I want to point out to you. Sorry, guys.
Sorry.
No, you're all right. You're all right. See the piece of plywood? Our floor around the building, we've been trying to fix from underneath over the last couple of years. It keeps failing. We've had to go 3/4 inch plywood and actually drill it right down to cover it because we had so much failure there. Okay? All right, you guys got out without grabbing that hand? Not so. Okay, a couple things have occurred. Notice the bottom of all the windows look like a wall now. What we did was put insulation, foam insulation, and drywall over and painted it. The baseboard heat units, okay, much of them were not functional, they were just broken. Over the years they've worn out, they were beat up. We went to fix those or replace those. We needed to do those things. The foam board we didn't, but the thing is when the baseboard heat rose in the winter when it was cold, in the cold because the windows aren't thermal at the level, it's eating up the heat, so that's why the building would not stay consistently a temperature. Just some things to think about.
Those are not thermal windows?
They're thermal paint, but they're 40 years old. They're not anywhere near the new standards. So
is that electrical?
Yes, sir. The countertops are granite, and we put this in, that in, and the one top today. We will reuse those, whether it's in the existing building or one of our other structures. We're starting to think longer. With the price of granite, when we put this in, was only slightly higher than all the other options we had. Knowing we could reuse it, we knew when we pulled this out, we could resize it and use it elsewhere. Again, these were our thoughts when we were going through the new structure. So a lot of the equipment we spent, a lot of furniture we bought, we'll reuse that somewhere, if not the same, in the new yacht club and other parts of the association, so it wasn't money wasted. It was just more efficiently putting it to use and then looking at longer term solutions.